Hello and welcome back to the You Look Happier podcast. My name is Ellie Forsyth and I am a life coach and a counsellor, and I am joined today by the lovely Stacey. Hi Stacey, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here, and I've heard a little bit about your journey, but I'm excited for the listeners to hear about your journey too.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I'm going to properly be open and honest about it, really. So,
Amazing.
yeah, let's see how it gets on.
Yeah.
Goes on even.
So, before we begin, this is usually something which I do on each episode, is ask the guest, could you just explain to the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name's Stacey, as Ellie's just said. I'm 32 years old and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 18. I work as a registered nurse, so I have had battles with people's perceptions of mental health and working in healthcare, but generally people's prejudice and discrimination against mental health as well, which I've experienced. So like facing adversity. So.
Wow. Okay. How has this impacted you so far?
It's impacted many aspects of my life, really. So again, like I said, going to uni, doing my degree, bipolar was always there in the background. And just like I can't do certain things like normal people do, like finances. I'm pretty rubbish with money, if I'm truly honest. Relationships can be a bit awkward as well.
Okay.
So especially like when you're trying to meet a partner and stuff like that, it's like, how do you tell them that you've got this condition? And because sometimes you could tell people I've got bipolar disorder, and then you could see like their face change. And then all of a sudden how they perceive you completely changes as well. So you do feel like, do I just not mention it? And to be fair, it's not really a conversation starter, is it? Hi, my name's Stacey and I've got bipolar disorder. Like, you just don't, I don't make it my personality, but obviously there's going to be there's times where I'm not feeling great and I might perceive something differently to someone else, and therefore it makes me look like hard work when really it's the traits of a disorder that's coming through. So yeah, definitely romantic relationships are I'm crap at. I like being, in a way, I expect to be on my own, at least then. So, but yeah, like even then, like the dating scene, like there'll be something that could be going really, really well, and I'll sabotage it myself just because I felt sad that day. And if I do it to myself, then no one can hurt me, really. So
Okay.
you kind of, so it is a bit.
Okay. Well, thank you for that insight to begin with. Bipolar disorder in general, my question would be, do enough people understand what it means? Do people understand how it affects you? And what you're sharing here is you've actually faced that in real life that people don't quite understand. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So that is so I'm going to go back to when I got first diagnosed and all that.
Okay, brilliant.
So 18 years old, obviously you're 18, people make the assumption of, how can you have this disorder? What you got to be depressed about? You're only this age. And I remember going into a clinic appointment after I got diagnosed and hearing this couple, they must have been in their 50s, and you have to go to the desk and give your date of birth when you check in.
Yeah.
And they obviously heard me say 1992, and they went, oh, what's she doing here? What's stressing her out? She doesn't know what life is and stuff like that.
Oh my
And
goodness
kind
me.
of disgusting me sitting there. And bear in mind, I looked about 12 at the time. I don't look my age. So that was a bit of a struggle. And then going to, again, friends my age, they never experienced, none of them had bipolar, none of them suffered from mental health, really. So again, you had no one to kind of relate to either.
Yeah.
But then it didn't help. Obviously, when I was getting diagnosed, there was Jean and Stacey in EastEnders, and they were portrayed in the very extreme sense of bipolar, where they were very erratic, didn't really care, lived on the, like, had no sense of danger and stuff like that. So people made the assumption that bipolar people were like Jean from EastEnders.
Okay.
And if you don't know what Jean's like in EastEnders, she's very like upbeat and talks really fast, and seems like a bit dim-witted, which she's not. Like, yeah, so it just gave that kind of stigma that if you said bipolar, people related straight back to that, really.
Okay.
So again, you didn't want to tell people you had it in case they thought you were absolutely mental. So, and then, yeah, just people's, again, so that's going back to like 18. And then when I was at uni, obviously doing placements, and I had a kind of like a passport to basically say I had this, I had bipolar disorder, and that sometimes I just needed a bit of time, something to explain to. I was more hands-on than theory. And some mentors read it and they were like, cool. Others literally discarded it pretty much and was like, if you got that, you shouldn't be in the nursing field.
Oh, wow.
And again, being 18, 19, I've qualified at 21. And when I started my degree, I came out the education system. So I've been in education system from 4 to... So you didn't have, in that way, you didn't have that kind of street smarts where you go, actually, that's not right. Like,
yeah.
Because when you're on placement, you don't want to say anything to rock the boat because you want to get through it and you want to pass.
Yeah.
But I remember my second year, literally, that was my breaking point at one point where I felt like just jacking in my whole degree because of this one nurse who was just everything. She just couldn't understand what bipolar was, and then she would assume that people with bipolar were liars and all that. So the amount of time she would be like, oh yeah, they just lie, they just exaggerate and stuff like that. And you're thinking, well, I'm not exaggerating. Like, your behaviour's like really poor against me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she called me the wrong name. Like, so that's not me being bipolar. That's me saying my name's not Rachel, it's actually Stacey. So the fact that you can't remember my name is just as bad. And just other stuff like that. I just remember she just wasn't a nice person. That really affected my mental health. Like, I come from an Irish family. And my surname's the most Irish surname you can get going. And she would be like, I don't like Irish people, and just say it out loud. And then she would be like, then she asked me if I was part of the RIA, a terrorist group.
Right.
So not only was she ripping my mental health, she was ripping everything.
Your culture.
My identity, basically. And I should have really reported her properly because what she'd done was absolute discrimination, but also racism.
Yeah.
Like, to be asked if I was in a terrorist group was absolutely disgusting, to be fair. And this was from a nurse who was caring for people. And that's what makes me angry, is that there's people... She's very extreme. That's an extreme kind of person. But there are people who are very judgmental on mental health where they're like, oh, I can't be bothered with that. Or they read something like maybe a patient's got mental health and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I don't really want to deal with that, when...
Well, it's completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
How you were treated in that one example is disgusting,
And that was in one... So that was very extreme. That was the placement that made me go, like, can I actually do this? Because it had mentally bogged me down so much, where I felt like I'm not going to succeed. It made me feel like I wasn't going to succeed. And so, but then again, you have that... I think I'm really glad I've got, obviously, family and there's, like, friends as well. And it was only a 10-week placement. And even though it was just, you got to get through it, just power through it, keep going. Because it's not worth throwing away 2 years of a degree because of one person's opinion. So it was a lot of talking myself into carrying on and being like, I can do this, I can do this. And I obviously did, because I'm like nearly 11 years qualified now. So
that's fantastic.
But I honestly said that when I had students of my own, I would never ever treat them the way that I was treated, because nursing degree is one of the toughest degrees going. You work 40-hour placements for nothing. You then have to... Like, I had a part-time job on top of that. And then I was commuting and all. There was a lot of stress going on. So for me to navigate that, like, at the time I was like, you don't really see it. Like, you just get on with it. But when I reflect back on that, I navigated quite a lot of work and I'd done a lot of hours. I worked really hard. Like, assignments as well as placement hours, doing night shifts. Like, I did everything that they gave it. What they chucked at me, I did my best to navigate and just to get through it and get that degree.
Well, that tells me a lot about your character, your courage, your determination, how you were treated in that by that one tutor, you didn't allow it to impact you and affect you. But, when you were saying previously, like, they were necessarily, or you've been met with people that aren't always necessarily aware of what bipolar is. When you got diagnosed, did you know what it was at the time?
To be fair, I knew what it was because my mum is diagnosed.
Okay.
So I am a child of a bipolar parent.
Right.
So I knew what it was, but obviously I didn't know there's so many. It's not a ladder. It's not a up and down. It's a scale. So bipolar travels across. So you could be really extreme on both ends of the spectrum.
Right.
Or you could show characters of both, but not be as severe. So it's very a personal journey. There's no textbook bipolar person. There's no one who's the same as, I'm not the same as my mum.
Right, okay.
So I knew of it because of my mum's journey. But I remember, so I know they always say it in studies that if you have one parent that's got it, your child has a chance of getting it. So I kind of always had that in the mind. But to be honest, I was showing symptoms probably from the age of 15. From like year 10, I just remember feeling like this cloud was just hanging over my head and it just wouldn't shift. And I didn't know why, because there was nothing really major going on in my life apart from exams.
Right.
But I couldn't say that it was exam stress because I was doing fine with them. Like, I was able to prep really well for exams and stuff. And I knew my stuff and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to college and stuff. But just would not shift. This sadness. Like, and when it did shift, I'll be happy as anything. And then it was always that kind of lurk in the background, like, this is not going to last forever. So I was put on citalopram when I was 15 years old. So I started taking antidepressants from 15.
Wow.
So I wasn't even an adult, I was actually a child. So it's always been, so the journey started from 15, diagnosis was at 18.
Okay. So this cloud that you were feeling, you mentioned it was like a cloud of sadness which was sort of following you around.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking this question is, if we can do anything by this episode, is supporting people to have more awareness of the disorder and of the condition. I think that would be amazing, because before I started working in mental health, I've mentioned it to you, I worked in the mental health hospital in Coventry. I didn't understand what bipolar was. I thought, and this is a really closed-minded way of looking at it, but I just didn't have the awareness. Yeah. I thought it was mad highs, mad lows. That was my perception until I got trained and I did my education. So what would you say to that, Stacey? Is that at all right, or?
In like layman's terms, you could put it like that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not always manic low where you feel like you're going to jump in front of a train, and then a manic high where you literally don't care about anything and will, again, risk your life.
Yeah.
Because you think you're invincible. It is a scale. There's so many traits of it. Like, there's my bipolar, I struggle with anger. So a lot of my symptoms is anger because I can't get my words out and I feel really frustrated. So it is a spectrum. Some people might get a bit both. You could get mixed episodes. Some people might only just suffer with the one side of it. So some people might just experience more depressive episodes than manic. So it's all very different. And then there's many factors in life, like what you do for your job, is your life stressful and all that, because they impact how your bipolar is.
Right.
But at the same time, it is, I know it sounds cliche, mind over matter. So you can either accept the diagnosis and then just kind of live up to the whole manic high, manic low, turn it into like a superpower rather than like Achilles heel where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to hide away. Or you could be out there doing amazing stuff and kind of showing people that bipolar is not the end of the world. It's literally, your brain's just wired differently, that's all. So it's not, so I think people should read a little bit more off it.
Yeah.
Because there is kind of conditions that are very similar to bipolar, like borderline personality disorder shares the same symptoms. Mm-hmm. ADHD shares the same symptoms, even autism to some extent. So it's learning the differences between each one. So you could say, like you said, about manic highs, manic lows, but then borderline personality disorder suffers from that as well. Mm-hmm. So how can you Same with PTSD. There's so many it's like an umbrella. So like bipolar disorder is part of the umbrella of mental health. It's just, I wish people would just read up a little bit more about it.
Well, hopefully, after our chat today, people
Yeah.
might understand a little bit more. Even from our chat that we had prior to the podcast and today,
Yeah.
like I'm learning and I love that. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful to you for that. So with bipolar affecting everybody differently, how did it affect you? So how did it impact you? 15, you got put on citalopram. 18, you got diagnosed. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell me about that time in your life.
So I remember, like I said, just being very, very sad. And then it'll go away and then I'll be all right again. But then it always sat in the background. It's like, it was like, it's always like, it waited for me in the dark. So literally, as soon as the lights went out, all the intrusive thoughts and all that came back.
Right.
So it's like it never ever left me alone, really. And I remember being at uni one day and just being really, really down, like, I can't concentrate, it was impacting, like, my work. And having to go into student wellbeing and just talking, going, I feel really, really crap.
Okay.
And that's when they started getting they contacted GP, they sent a letter, I went to GP, and then that's when the ball got rolling. But it was just difficult. Like I said, like, education was probably that's the thing I knew that I can do, and I worked really hard to get where I wanted to be because I wanted to make something of myself. I wanted to be. I also wanted to help people. Like, I never thought nursing. I actually applied for midwifery to begin with, and then I fell into nursing, and then fell in love with it. I can't picture myself doing any other job but helping people. So definitely, education and having a goal was my drive, really. But then, like I said, my brain was wired differently. So there was, like, impacts, like, I learn through practice to theory, so I learn hands-on.
Okay.
Uni, that's just another thing, everyone learns differently. Uni very much is death by PowerPoint, you sit in front of it and you're like... So I was, like, having to, like, learn my own way so I can achieve. But then I got to a point, I'm not going to lie, where the 40% is, like, the cut-off on, like, 40% and you pass, basically, where my mental health was literally not brilliant, that I was just watching, I just want to get done and, like, get through the degree. Mm-hmm. I stopped trying to achieve, like, a first, because I was mentally just not in the right place. So, but then again, it's, like I said, like, how I interpret stuff as well.
Okay.
So not only through education, like death by PowerPoint, but how I learn. So I have to learn a certain way, so I have to be quite hands-on. I don't learn by watching someone do something 10 times. It's I like being very practical, but also being able to take criticism as well. Because with bipolar, sometimes someone can, like, say something like, oh yeah, you need to do this better or something, and you take it to heart so bad that you hang on, and then you basically hang on to it like a rock, and then you think you're not good enough. Mm-hmm. So that is a con of bipolar disorder, is that you can't take criticism properly because you feel like you're just not good enough. But then it's the opposite, because someone could say you're doing a great job, but you assume that they're lying. So you can't win either way. So it's like you want validation, but someone gives you it, and then you assume that they're lying to you, basically. So how my brain worked as a young adult was very conflicting, really. And it just,
Tough,
yeah.
A really tough time that you've had.
Tough, like, literally, honestly, doing a nursing degree whilst getting a diagnosis. I don't even know how I bloody manage it.
Neither do
Sometimes
I.
I'm like, I reflect back on it and go, bloody hell, that was actually hard work. That was really hard work.
But you did it.
I did it. And do you know what? A part of me thinks if I could be this age and how I am now, like, mentally, and do the course again, I probably would have done academically a lot better. I would have, placement-wise, I was fine. I was actually achieving above, like, my level. So practically I was fine. But if I was to do the assignments again and stuff like that, I think I would have done 10 times better.
So that might lead us on to an interesting topic to speak about.
Yeah.
What changed, Stacey? So you were going through all of this, you were battling through, getting your diagnosis, but also heavy education, like a nursing degree, as you've said. Like, is, I don't imagine it's a walk in the park. You know, it's tough. So you're dealing with that as well. How did things change for you to the point where you just started to wear it as less of an Achilles heel and more as, you know, this is me and I'm going to push forwards with this?
I think my turning point was actually turning 30.
Okay.
So I'm 32 now, so I think turning 30 definitely changed my outlook a lot more, because I think my 20s is like your 20s is trial and error basically. It's
Yeah.
like trying to navigate a new form of life. You're not a child no more, you're an adult, and it's making them mistakes and dealing with people like for example, like when you're younger you have a load of friends and your social life is booming. But as you get older, you're working 9 till 5. Well, not me. I do 12.5-hour shifts. You're working quite a lot. Your friends are working. Your circle then becomes a lot smaller. So in your 20s, you're adapting to a lot of changes. So when I turned 30, it was like, this is a new chapter. This is a new me. And I think I saw myself. I literally went, "Do you know what? I'm actually an amazing person." But when I say that out loud, I feel really narcissistic. But it was at first, I was like, "Do you know what? I'm comfortable with who I am, and I don't need to make friends. Like, I like making friends and I like being sociable and stuff. But I've learned that not everyone has to like me.
Okay.
And what their opinion of me is their opinion. They're entitled to it. It doesn't have to. I don't have to take their opinion on board. Like, so not focusing on if certain people don't like you, and focusing on actual people who matter. So my actual friends and my family, and my child, they're the people who matter. I'm not really fussed about anyone else's opinion of me. And this is the thing about social media. Like, social media is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we spend so much time comparing ourselves to people and thinking, oh, they've unfollowed me. Why have they done that and all that? And so, like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the end of the day, like, never mind. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then just like you find yourself again, it's just a bit of a tool. Like, I don't want to look back. I want to look forward. So I don't want to use my social media as looking at people's lives and being like, oh, they're doing this and all that, when really it doesn't actually impact my life whatsoever. And social media isn't highlight reel. It's not real. Like, it's not real life. So someone could post about something amazing, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors either. And same with like targets. Everyone assumes that you've got to own a house by your late 20s. You've got to be married. You've got to have kids and all that. And like this timeline, but the timeline doesn't exist. We just made it up, and we made it up to compare, and people forget that things do change. So I could look at someone. I live with my mum and dad. I quite enjoy living with my mum and dad and my daughter. Big enough house. We get on quite well. Perfect location. And then there was a time I was looking at thinking, I don't own my own property. I'm not married and all that. And then I thought to myself, actually, relationships can break down.
Yep.
Houses can then, therefore, if a relationship breaks down and they've got a house, they've then got to sell the house. Therefore,
Yeah, they haven't got a house anymore. Yeah.
They don't have a house anymore. Therefore, they might have to move in their parents. Again, nothing's permanent.
No.
So really, just because someone's got a house doesn't mean they're going to have it forever, even though it would be nice if they had it forever. But like, things do change and life changes.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's permanent. So therefore, now that I'm looking at social media, I'm like, good for them. But at the same time, it's, why should I feel jealous and why should I feel sad that I don't have any of that, when there's people who probably look at me going, oh yeah, she's got a really good career, she's got good friends, she's got hobbies and all that. So there is like traits in my life that people probably want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm quite a confident person. I could go out and be quite socially quite comfortable and confident, and I don't have to pretend to be someone else. Like, I don't look like most people. Most people are tanned and blonde and thin and stuff like that. I'm ginger and pale as anything. Like, so again, it's like my persona. I don't look like I like the fact that I'm different in a way.
With this, right, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
When we are comparing, I was literally talking about this on the last podcast I filmed, same kind of thing. Why do we compare ourselves to other people? You mentioned something about when we were talking about, okay, what was the turning point for you? You've said like turning 30 and realising certain things were maybe affecting your happiness. So
Yeah.
you've focused on the things which are good. But when it comes to, you shared like one of the triggers was somebody unfollowing you on social media.
Yeah.
Social media is a killer. It really is.
And the thing is, they weren't like, people aren't your friend. Not everyone that follows you is your mate.
No.
Like, they're just, I have people on mine who I like what they do. So I like, obviously there's lifestyle coaches, there's people who are on the same mindset as me, and it's great having that networking. So social media is good for networking with like-minded people, but not everyone's your friend.
Yeah.
Like, I've got over 1,000 followers, but are they my mates? No, they probably think they're probably like me. She has the same mindset as me. Mm-hmm. She looks like a nice person and follow me. A lot of it's like, again, like wellness accounts and stuff that follow me, to be fair, and I quite enjoy looking at people's content. So,
but it sounds as though with that you're using social media for the right reasons now.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing here, the element of you and how comfortable you are with being you is and has been impacted and affected previously by negative things.
Yeah.
So has that made you worse then at times? You know, like with your bipolar, these things which were getting you down, was it triggering your bipolar?
Definitely.
Okay, so just so that I'm on the right track with you here, reducing the impact of those things, focusing on your child, your family, your friends, the people that really love you and you love them, does that mean that you've got more of a grip on your condition, disorder? I'm not sure.
In a way, yes, because I know they're real. They're in front of me. My family, my child, and my friends, they're real because they're in front of me and they're physically there.
So you have been on a journey to find yourself, and through this you've recognised you don't need to wear a mask anymore.
Yeah.
Is there times where you still wear a mask?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It still hangs up in the wardrobe, that mask. And I think it's on days where I'm feeling completely rubbish.
Yeah.
And I have to go to work and I can't feel sad at work. Not because I don't have a good team, it's because I got such a important role that I don't have room for error. Like, I got to get stuff done. Patients who are dealing with especially sensitive conditions and problems. You can't just be sad because they pick up on that. They pick on that energy. And when you come into hospital, you don't want someone miserable calling you through. You want someone who's quite light and bubbly and stuff like that, because it brings them a lot of warmth and it brings them a lot of ease. And that's, for me as a nurse, my job is to make sure they have the best care, that they feel at ease, that they can build trust with me, because that's another thing. If you close yourself off, they're not going to talk to you and tell you stuff. Whilst if you're open, they come and speak to you a lot more and they tell you a lot more information, which again enhances their care. So if they've told you something and you're like, okay, they've just told me that, it can change how their care plan is. Whilst if you're just closed off, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, she's miserable. And I like making time for my patients. I have a lot of time to sit there and just see how they are and everything. Obviously, you do get frustrated at times, but I think that's the pressure of the work, because the influx of work, like my workload is a lot. It's a lot. I have a lot more workload now than what I did 10 years ago.
Right. Okay.
Because the service is a lot more busier. And then there's only so many nurses as well, so you are stretched. But I always make the effort, and the moment I feel too sad and I start making mistakes at work, that's when I need to go home, because I realise it's actually impacting my job now, and I have that confidence to be like, I'm really having a shit day and I feel like it's impacting. I have a really good manager, she's amazing, I have a good matron as well. So, and they get it. So, in a way, I think if you have a good managerial team, it makes it a lot easier to say, I feel like crap. But
So you've shared some days you can have bad days,
yeah,
but you put that to a side to enhance the well-being of the people that you look after, Stacey. That is incredible. Do you know how many people are living with the same, I keep going to say condition, disorder. Stacey, tell me, which one do I say here?
just disorder.
Disorder, right?
Yeah.
So people that are living with the same disorder, bipolar disorder, and they would then feel defeated
Yeah.
by that. You haven't let it defeat you, have you?
The thing is, you can either be defeated and selfish and be one of life's victims, like the world has give you a bad. Basically, in life, you get given a set of cards. It's how you deal with them. Like, you could have a card just full of jokers, but
Yeah.
it's how you play it. Like, so people can feel either really defeated and it's all poor me, life's treating me so bad, or you could be like, "Do you know what? It's given me this, but I'm gonna actually use it as a superpower and make something of myself." Because there's people who they sit there, get a diagnosis, and they do feel like, oh, doors are shutting on
That's
them. Like,
it.
doors
Yeah,
of
they might
opportunity.
think they can't achieve anything.
They can't achieve anything, but sometimes, even though it's a little bit harder, you've got to just kick them doors down and keep going for it and be like, "Do you know what? I can make something of myself." Nursing was always my baby, literally. My degree, it was something I always wanted to do, and if I didn't, I remember being at uni, I said if I didn't have nursing, then I got nothing, and I wouldn't know what I would do myself if I didn't have it. I didn't have a backup plan. Like, I had to succeed, and even now it's still my baby, even though I've had my own child. And fair enough, I work a part-time life now, but I used to do quite a lot of hours before I had my daughter. But it's still my baby. Like, I wouldn't know what to do again without nursing. Like, what job would I go into if I had to leave the profession? Or so yeah, I do think about that. Like, I don't have a skill, so I am a bit envious of people who are like hairdressers and nail techs, because that's a skill they could take wherever. I can't take my career wherever. Like, well, I can, but it's just a lot of work. So I can't just go abroad because I have to change my registration and then do the exams and stuff like that. So yeah, there is a lot of more work to take my career elsewhere.
Well, I could come up with a few careers that you could have, even just from speaking to you today. The compassion that you have for other people, the work that you do, making sure that the patients that you're supporting have the right care.
Yeah.
Even when we had our meeting prior to this podcast, you were sharing with me how you are always going above and beyond for the people that you support. Now, that can be taken to just looking after people, working with people, doing what I do, doing what I do, because you have a big heart. So you want the best for people. But I think what has absolutely shone throughout this whole conversation is you haven't allowed this to defeat you. You are wearing your disorder as a superpower. And I think that is going to be so inspiring for some people that may be thinking, oh, right, yeah, well, I am feeling a little bit defeated at the minute. Because they might listen and think, well, Stacey can do it.
Oh, God, yeah. If I could do it, then anyone could do it. And I'm not like, obviously I'm nothing special, but again, it's mind over matter. You can achieve anything you want to achieve. Like, if you want to be a spaceman, like, go ahead, like, go for it. What's stopping you? People are very reluctant to try and go out their comfort zone. And sometimes you do, because things don't grow in your comfort zone.
Love that. Powerful phrase.
Things grow outside of it. So yeah, so when I see, like, especially like when I look back, I've got students who are 18, 19 years old, and I try and boost them up so much because it is scary, because you are a kid. Like, I forget how young you are when I went into my degree, like 18 years old and looking after sick and vulnerable people in a hospital. Not every young person can do that. It's a vocational job. Like, you can't. So yeah, it's absolutely. I'm still like in awe. Like, think about it now. Like, sitting here, I'm like, oh wow, I've done really well. But I remember literally getting discharged from an outpatient service, from the mental health service, and my consultant at the time he sent a card in the post saying congratulations on finishing your degree and all that. So even they were recognising, like, how well I was doing, because they sent me a card. But I remember going for, like, blood tests after night shifts and all that, so they knew. They were like, be like, house placement and all that. So It was, and even though like it's not an easy degree, it was going through a new diagnosis. I remember, I think uni offered, they said, do you want 6 months out? And I went, no, I've got to continue, because if you take me out of it, I'm not going to come back. I've got to keep going. And also, I didn't want to work full-time at my part-time job, because I didn't really like it that much. So, yeah.
And that, again, is your sheer courage. Like, no, I don't want to take 6 months off, because I'm maybe a little bit fearful that my momentum will drop. I won't want to carry on. But I love what you've said there. Saying things out loud, you sharing everything, has made you go, oh, yeah, hang on a minute. I actually have done really well, because you have, despite the odds.
Yeah.
Because the odds were against you, Stacey. I'm not going to lie. You know,
Oh, God, yeah.
With everything that you were going through, what you were battling with, you've done really well.
And the thing is about it, it was kind of all dealt with privately, because the stigma was so big.
Yeah.
And there was no understanding of it. So it was it was dealt with behind closed doors, really. Like, I don't think I mentioned to my work colleagues that I had bipolar disorder until I was like 24. So
Through
they were
fear of
judgment,
Yeah.
fear of being just of them thinking I couldn't do my job, that I wasn't good enough, basically. And like I said, there's been times where sometimes you tell people, like I said previously, you can see people's faces change, and how they respond to you change when you tell them you've got this diagnosis, and it's quite sad, really. And it makes
me angry.
So yeah, I didn't tell anyone at work I had bipolar disorder for a good few years, and they've been working with me for 3 years, and then they've been brilliant, to be fair. Like, my work colleagues know now. I could crack a joke about having bipolar now, like, and I'm like, you can laugh, it's funny. So yeah, and they're very supportive. They know if I'm having a bad day, it's generally I'm not feeling great, but they kind of pick up on it, because like, I'm generally quite positive a lot of the time. So as soon as I hit that negative day, they're like,
they can tell.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I've got two last questions for you.
Yeah.
Now, one of them is the same question that I ask everybody at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
So one of the questions is, if somebody is listening to this and they may be thinking, maybe I might have bipolar disorder, and what you're sharing here is sort of making them ask questions, what advice would you give to them?
Again, it's very different, because like I said, my journey was very different. I was 18, and I went through the diagnosis through a time where bipolar wasn't really spoken about.
Right.
Was now, if you think you've got it, there's so many resources and charities that can help support you. But also, even though it's difficult, because some people say their GPs aren't great, but they do unlock doors. So speaking to your GP, like saying that how you're feeling, because they can refer on to secondary services like the mental health services.
Right.
But also finding your tribe of people who you trust, that you can offload to and be like, this is how I'm feeling, and say anything to, and they're not going to go run for the hills, and they're going to go, okay, like, sometimes it can be so isolating. It's so isolating, and not knowing who to turn to, who to talk to, can be really hard. So it is finding the right people that you can trust, and if you are feeling very low, you are able to contact them. So yeah, definitely a GP, refer to secondary services. There's charities. There's also apps, so like Calm, which is, well, Headspace, and then there's Calm, where it's like, if you're having anxiety, you put your earphones on and they talk you down from it. So usually Headspace is a free app, I think. I think you could pay for like premium features. But Headspace was a godsend at one point, especially during COVID. Literally, you don't need to have an hour of it. You can listen to it for 5 minutes, and just to regulate yourself again. Calm, I think Calm is very similar, but Calm has a bloody American voice on it, and it gets a bit irritating. So them two resources. Also, I think don't wait to go into the mental health service and all that, and wait for counselling. If you feel like you need someone to talk to, finding a counsellor that you can see instead, because some people wait for it to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst now I got I see someone through work, and I only see it probably once a fortnight, once a month, just to offload.
Yep.
But if I waited through like NHS services, you could be waiting for months.
Months and months and months.
And they can offer, there's talking therapies on NHS, and you can actually self-refer now. You don't need a GP. You can self-refer, and they can have links to secondary service as well.
Fantastic.
But to get a diagnosis, you do unfortunately have to get into that service and have to, because you've got to speak to like a psychiatrist, you've got to speak to a mental health doctor. The diagnosis process does take that a little bit longer. And the thing is, you might think you got bipolar, but actually you got ADHD. So you thought the diagnosis can actually change as well. I advise obviously keeping a diary, like a mood diary of if you're having a good day, what made it a good day? If it's a sad day, why was it sad? What triggered you? Because that's your evidence as well to say, my thought process is not running like it should.
Just on that, have you heard of the app called Dailyo?
Vaguely, I think I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it, to be fair.
So one of my clients uses this app, and it's brilliant because before our sessions together, they will screenshot the past 2 weeks. Every day, it's really easy. You have an emoji, so you can put like meh, I'm having a meh day, happy day, calm day.
Oh,
it's called DAYLIO.
But you know what? When I was being diagnosed with that, they asked if I wanted to write in a diary of what I wanted the pediatric mood version, and I picked the pediatric one.
What,
and
for,
it was,
like for the children?
Yeah, and it was like that with stickers. So
Yeah.
it was literally the most. But it made it so much easier for me to kind of put, oh yeah, I'm feeling sad today, sad sticker. Like
Well, you don't have to go into the.
I don't want to go into it and sit there and write like. Sometimes you don't want to write; you just want to stick it.
Yeah.
It's just easy to put a sticker on a day and be like, yeah, I felt sad that day. So yeah, that was quite a it's a fun way of getting diagnosed with stickers.
I might put the links down. You know, the Headspace Calm that you've mentioned, that one that I've just come up with. I'll put it in the links for the
there's definitely a few. There's Shout as well. Shout's a text service that if you're feeling extremely anxious or even like, God forbid, suicidal, you text Shout and they text you back, so you don't have to speak to someone on the phone. Because I get a lot of people don't like speaking on the phone. Mm-hmm. And they text you and they kind of calm you down a little bit.
Okay.
So that is like a good one if you don't want to kind of contact the crisis team, but you want someone to kind of talk to right then and there. That's a good one as well.
Okay, really helpful. Thank you.
But yeah, Shout's a good one.
Okay, perfect. And then my last question to you is, what advice would you give, not for somebody that was going through it themselves, but for somebody to make sure that they are treating everybody correctly? So you know how you were treated with the stigma that you faced?
Yeah.
What advice would you give so that people listening can make sure that they never make anybody feel like that again?
Again, actually listen. So not listening to reply, listening to understand.
Right.
And everyone's very different how they present their mental health. Some people don't want first, some people want to talk about it, some people don't. So if someone's, I'm trying to think in certain settings. So like at work, if I have a student, they got a mental health condition, we kind of talk about triggers, what can help, what can I do? And you kind of make a plan to make their process a lot easier.
Right.
But it could apply, but same with friends, like, how can I help? Instead of saying, just call me when you need me, sometimes that doesn't really help because people won't call. People who are very distressed feel like they can't call anyone because they don't want to feel like a burden. So regularly checking in on your friends, even the ones that you feel are the most happiest, because even the most happiest people aren't happy full time.
Yeah.
So is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do to help? So regularly checking in on, like, it sounds silly, but like if your friend hasn't been in a shower for a week because their mood's that bad, like go around and actually prompt them, physically go to the house and then like probably do the washing up and all that. Something that's so simple can make a massive difference. And then just listening. Sometimes you don't have to say anything to say, oh, it's not about, oh, it's just about, trying to think of something that people say all the time that actually...
It will get better.
It will get
last.
better. People have it worse. sometimes it's just empty words. It doesn't mean anything. I hate people crowding around me when I'm very stressed out. It makes me feel worse. It makes me feel like I'm trapped and I'm claustrophobic.
Okay.
So actually giving people space to breathe and calm down. Some people just don't want to talk about how they're feeling straight away. I sometimes don't want to speak about how I'm feeling straight away, but sometimes I like having someone there. So just being able to sit with someone in silence and being comfortable with that until they're ready to open up, because not everyone's going to open up about the trials and tribulations of their life straight away.
Amazing. Okay.
And the thing is as well, if someone's telling you what's going on, you should be very honoured in a way, because it just shows that they trust you.
Right.
So it's respect, but respecting that whatever they've told you in confidence.
Yeah.
But unless you thought they were really in danger, then act on it. But they've told you in confidence, then you have to kind of respect what they're saying, and then not kind of go out there and be like, oh yeah, they feel like this, blah, blah, blah. It's not.
It's usually a massive, massive thing for somebody to actually confide in you, isn't it?
Yeah, and to confide in you, and sometimes, and you then, it's like a problem halved, because if I'm in mental distress but there's someone who's completely compos mentis and they're absolutely fine, sometimes they could flip the situation on its head and be like, actually, and break it down. And then once you break it down, the problem isn't that bad anymore. Mm-hmm. But you want definitely someone who you could trust. There's people who gaslight quite a lot, where you might get really stressed out by something and they're like, well, that didn't happen. And that makes you feel a little bit.
Well, it's just adding fuel to the fire, essentially.
Adding fuel to the fire, and you're thinking, I actually feel like I'm going mad here. But while someone goes, okay, I get why that made you feel, but let's break it down. And then you realise you probably being a little, I'm not going to say be irrational. Sometimes I see things differently to other people. And I have got such a trustworthy vibe. Yeah, we all like vibes. Tribe around me that they could be like, oh no, Stacey, this is what happened. And then I go, okay, actually, it's not that bad. So I always say to people, like my work colleagues, my friends, let me be dramatic for 10 minutes and then I'll start being rational.
I love that though.
Let me have my dramatic moment for 10 minutes and then we can discuss and break it down.
Well, that is you being really, really self-aware. You know what you need. And a lot of the time when somebody is struggling, say if somebody came up to anybody and said, you know, I have bipolar disorder. You've already said you've noticed people's faces change sometimes, but people then overreact and think, oh my God, I need to know exactly what to say. They overthink it and then they avoid it.
Just be normal. There's no such thing as normal. Just be yourself.
And say, what do you need from me? How can I help?
Yeah, exactly. Just that. And I've just got mind block. We'll cut that bit out. Mind block.
What were we saying? When somebody comes to them and says, I have bipolar disorder, people sometimes make it about them by thinking they need to know exactly what to say and how to help.
And the fact is you don't need to say anything. You just need to be yourself and be realistic, but also not make a thing of it. Like not see someone as a billboard that says bipolar over it, but seeing it as, oh, this is Stacey.
Yeah.
Because there's people who, but then again, opposite side, there's people who literally make their diagnosis their personality.
Yeah.
And there's no need for it to be like that. Like, at the end of the day, it's how your brain's just wired differently if ever you see the world very differently. And I remember reading some quote going like, people with like who are neurodiverse, are we actually the normal ones and everyone else is different?
I love that.
Because you see everything going around, you see, okay, that's not right. You do have I think my moral compass is actually quite good. I'm not saying every bipolar person is this, because everyone's completely different. But my bipolar is definitely now I see it not in a negative way no more. And I think as well, I was so kind of cut off from it. It's just my family and we never really spoke about mental health quite out loud.
Right.
It was always kind of, but now my dad's like the most emotionally resilient person, but he is noticing a lot a lot about mental health, and he's now learning himself, and he's been brilliant. So slowly coming out. That's why I didn't tell anyone that didn't tell my family that I was going on this podcast, because we don't talk about feelings. And if someone says something soppy, we're like, yeah, that's wow soppy.
Oh, yeah, okay. So you get uncomfortable with
lame.
it. Will they listen to it?
I don't know. If they did, then great. If they didn't, I'll leave it up to them. So I don't know. I like to see if my they're brilliant. Honestly, I have a really good, my parents are amazing. My dad's really amazing. My two brothers are amazing. I remember, like, my brother, he always says I'm a bit too sensitive and stuff like that. But he's the total opposite. If he gets annoyed, he'll kick a football against a wall or do something like that. So we deal with stuff very differently. But he's great as well, because if I need to talk about anything, or I need something, like when I was pregnant with my daughter, pregnancy and mental health was such a horrible time, where I felt so down. That was such a, like, I was really poorly as well. I had hyperemesis, so I was in and out of hospital quite a lot. And I felt sorry for myself. And my older brother coming down to see me when I was in hospital, wearing a sick bolt as a hat, just to try and cheer me up. And then, like, he took me to buy my first pram for my daughter, even though he had just had his own child 6 weeks prior. Like, so I do have a really good family, and I can't fault them, really.
I love that.
Like, even my mum, bless her, is so, she won't let you go out the house if your shirt's creased, like, and she's got her own battles with mental health. So we are very different, but I respect her a lot. So yeah, definitely having a good support network. My families and my work colleagues, I can't fault them. They're amazing. And my friends as well. I'm very, very, sometimes you look and you think, I've got no one, but really, I've got so many people who are cheering me on. And like I said, even though my family don't go, oh yeah, you're doing really well, Stacey, blah, 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 because we just don't. I don't know whether it's just a cultural thing, that we don't tell people when they're doing a good job. And yeah, after shift, I'm always like, thanks for your help, you're doing really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think I'm just trying to look at life in the most as positive as I can and just appreciate it. It sounds really sad. Like, I'll go on a walk and you're just like, it's like seeing the world for the first time again, like some days where you're like the sun was out the other day and I was like, I don't even have to wear a jacket. This is wow nice. Yeah. Like,
so appreciating the little things I'm hearing
here. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like I said, going back to, I don't own a house. I'm not going to let that get me down because I don't own a house, because the economy is really bad. So a lot of people won't own a house because the economy's too bad. I can't even afford a 2-man tent right now.
But do you know what? It's about looking at life and thinking about what's important.
Exactly.
As I said, your journey that you have been on, you have battled through something which a lot of people would have allowed to defeat them. Yeah. You've pushed on. You have managed to find a way where you can live alongside your disorder, by the sounds of things, without letting it defeat you. But also, I'm seeing a real sense of positivity, a body confidence coming out of you, Stacey, and I love that. I love that.
And if you look at, and the thing is, look at celebrities like Selena Gomez.
Yeah.
She's got bipolar disorder and she's a billionaire. Like,
I didn't know that she had bipolar, Stacey.
She's got bipolar disorder and she's a billionaire. She uses hers to her craft. Like, she is very in tune with... I'm acting like I know Selena personally. I actually don't.
You're not telling us here.
Yeah, she's my best friend. If you look at, like, she has a business that she started, she's man-made. She's a man-made billionaire. She started from nothing.
Wow.
She knows her target audience. She knows what... she's probably used her bipolar, again, as a superpower and a mechanism, because she's making the right choices on what's best for her. She doesn't follow the curve as well. So her weight goes up and down. So again, she's very a good role model in that sense, because she doesn't look like anyone else.
She's human.
And she's human. She's not in the whole, she's stands up for what is right and stuff. So, like, she made a TikTok about, obviously, Donald Trump. I'm not even going to politics, but basically saying that anyone who wasn't born in America should leave. And obviously she's Mexican, and she's very passionate. So she's not bothered about putting stuff online that might cause a bit of controversy or being like anyone else. She doesn't want to be like, she's just a cool person. I like her.
I like her too.
I can't think of anything bad to say about Selena Gomez, and I like the fact that she would happily say not want to be involved with the Kardashians and all that. So yeah, she's got bipolar disorder and she's a millionaire. Ben Stiller, another actor, he's got bipolar disorder. Again, look at him.
From Along Came Polly.
Along Came Polly. Polly.
No, he wasn't in Friends.
I think was he in Friends as a cameo?
Might have been.
Zoolander and all that.
Yes. Yes.
And then there's Tom Fletcher from Matt Fly, who's got bipolar disorder as well. So once you look into bipolar disorder, all these people come out. Carrie Fisher, who was in Star Wars, had bipolar disorder. And I have to laugh because she's passed away, but her ashes are in a Prozac capsule. So Prozac is obviously the American term. In UK, it's fluoxetine.
Yeah. So it's medication.
It's medication. Right? So it's mental. I can't remember what part it is. I think it's used more for anxiety and things like that, but it's used for bipolar disorder. And I just think how awesome. She's literally been buried in bipolar in a bipolar capsule. And so you can be creative with it. You can have a laugh with it. I laugh all the time. I laugh at stupid jokes and everything. So since turning 30, I've relaxed a little bit more. I can have a bit of banter without being defensive. I'm laughing a lot more. And then again, when I do have sad days, I know it's not going to last forever. I know I just got to keep going through it, and and things will be brighter again. So in my 20s, it'll be like I'll be happy, and I'll be like, how long is this going to last for? It's not going to last forever. And now it's, if it comes, it comes. If the unhappy days come, it comes. But again, it's learning that difference between being sad and then being depressed because of bipolar. Right. You're not happy all the time. There's stuff that's going to make you feel a bit sad, and there's going to be stuff that makes you feel angry. Like me crying at The Lion King where his dad gets pushed off a cliff isn't because of bipolar. It's generally quite sad. Human, so it is learning. I'm entitled to feel these emotions. I don't have to feel like a clown all the time. And I'm slowly becoming a little bit more authentic. With bipolar, you do tend to have, like I explained to you in our little Zoom call, a face that you use for your family, a face what you use for your friends, a face what you use for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly combining it all. Obviously, like, you are more relaxed with your friends probably because they're people who choose to be your friend. I still find it weird how you make friends. Like, you just find a human, be like, oh yeah, I like the sound of you. Let's hang out.
Yeah, literally.
It's so weird.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Family are there. They're there permanently, aren't they? And they see you. They've known you from day dot. So it is. So yeah, I am a little bit more, can have a laugh and a joke. I'm a little bit more relaxed. There's some stuff I'm like, for God's sake, but I don't respond to it by crying. I just literally, I've toughened up a bit where I'm not crying at every little inconvenience. I'm just there like, because some battles, there's like, I used to have a habit, like someone will say something to me and I feel like I have to battle back.
Yeah.
And what's now, I could be like, it's not actually worth my speech. It's not worth my time. Like.
And essentially, when we feel the need to be defensive to others, sometimes it's about, as you say, recognising, do I even need to do this? Are they even going to listen if I do prove my point and say something?
But you know what? What I hate as well, like, so sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's not worth my time. But I hate people who, and this is another thing about this generation, and I'm part of this generation, that's what makes it sad. People who ghost people, like, instead of talking through a problem and trying to find a resolution, they just ignore people and act like they don't exist. And I think that's just really immature and not very good.
Because it leads that person to then try to find the answers themselves.
Yeah.
And that can then lead to us feeling really negatively about ourselves.
Exactly, where I'm like, what? And that's another thing that really gets to me at times, where I'm like, what have I done wrong? Am I not good enough? Like, now I just see it as, that's actually very immature. If you can't communicate what the issue is and what the problem is, then that's on you. That's not on me. But at the same time, flip it, if you feel like you've constantly told someone, you've hurt me this way, and they repeatedly keep doing it, then fair enough, like, sometimes silence is an answer. But I think just communicating, for me, it's a massive thing. I'd rather people come with me and be like, Stacey, you really upset me this way. Or, like, and vice versa. But then sometimes I could say something, and if a person doesn't, it could be misconstrued.
Yeah.
And a person could get offended, but really once I've explained it, they're gone, oh, okay, actually, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is communication's definitely a big thing within mental health. It's breaking down walls, it's removing barriers. People shouldn't have to hide who they are. People should be able to be open and say, I feel really, really down and I feel upset. And just know, I just think people just need to be a little bit more a lot more considerate and a lot more kinder to each other. I hate people who are only kind and nice to people that they like and then vile to everyone else. That's not really how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I just remember this flashback of this, like, when COVID happened and people, like, influencers went to Dubai and were still, like, socialising whilst people were, like, trapped in their houses here. And their response to, is your job actually necessary for you not to quarantine, basically? And their response was, oh, people need to be kind. It's, no, people have the right to be upset if you're literally...
Yeah.
So people are entitled to their opinion. You can't keep using be kind as well. But it's being considerate to the situation. And if you don't know much about a topic either or about a scenario, you shouldn't kind of input your stuff in either.
Would you recommend that they would then... Start again. Would you recommend that they could change that by asking? So rather than input their opinion, could they ask?
Get the full facts, ask. And you don't need to, sometimes you don't even need to put an opinion in. You could just be like, okay, like, and then just be that support network. Be like, okay, if you want something, if you need anything, let me know. But people are very quick to say their opinions out loud.
Okay.
And then not like it when someone kind of debates. I love a good debate, but there's certain people that you can't do it with because you'll just end up rowing, or they just can't accept that everyone's opinion is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be people watching who don't agree with what I've said, but at the same time, that's
okay.
That's okay. Like, it doesn't impact my life. It doesn't impact what I do. It doesn't impact you. It's it's just a sharing platform that we're all entitled to share how we feel and how we have battled stuff.
Well, I think you've shared your story really well. I think you've explained it from the aspect of how it's impacted you, but also given listeners a bit of an insight into, okay, if somebody walks up to me in the street and says, I feel that I have bipolar disorder, it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something...
And it's not something to be kind of pushed aside and be like, oh, no, you haven't. It's if someone generally feels like they've got something, then, and they've told us it's our kind of... I'm going to I keep sounding really nursey, but it's our duty of care as a person to ensure that whoever's reached out to us kind of gets the help they need, that we're not kind of brushing it under the carpet, that we kind of say, look, right, if you think this, let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
So,
well, as I say, I am so grateful to you for coming on here. How are you feeling after all of that today?
I feel like I just spoke a lot of waffle, if I'm truly honest.
I think you're brilliant.
And I think trying to construct a sentence when you get asked a question, I have to kind of think about it before I answer it. So I feel like sometimes I've been like, mama, yeah, like, because I just didn't know how to end a sentence. I feel definitely a lot positive sharing it. I feel like this could probably end up being a part 2 at some point, because there's so much. Like, this is 14 years of my life that's just been kind of condensed into this short amount of time.
Yeah.
But again, I might save that for my book if I ever write it. But yeah, it's such a positive experience doing this, and it's definitely ticked off my bucket list. I listen to so many podcasts as well, so to be on one is actually quite brilliant. So it's just getting my confidence back. Like, I do aerial like silks and all that, which I'm gonna do a shout out for a couple of actual people that big me up that
Go for it.
I advise people to go to these places.
Yeah.
So Rebel, Manifesto, Ariel, top place, very inclusive.
What is that, Stacey? Just
So it is. So have you ever seen Circus du Soleil where they
Yes.
deal with the hoops?
Yeah.
That's what
and the ribbons and
the ribbons.
They're in the
yeah,
air.
she does all that.
Right.
Her name's Luca. She's absolutely amazing. She's very inclusive. She's also very similar to me. Says her opinion out loud. So, but it's a safe space for people to kind of grow and develop, and to see people who've started that and then end up being amazing. There are amazing people that go there. And I got to, and she bigs me up massively. So she's got me doing I hadn't performed a dance or anything since before I had my daughter. And last year I managed to actually get up and perform in front of people. And it was only about a small crowd, but to do that after having a time away.
Fantastic.
I've then managed to do a hoop photo shoot, which again she arranged, and it's with a photographer called Kim, who's Broken Dolls Images. That's her company. And I never would put myself doing that, because I would have just been like, no, I'm not good enough for it. Oh, I'll just look horrible in it. I've just received my proofs from it, and they're actually really good, to the point where I don't know what to pick. That. So she's amazing. Another couple of places that I would advise people to go is One Wellness in town, which is in Coventry City Centre. Again, they're amazing people that run it. They do Pilates, they do everything. They focus mainly on well-being. And so they're amazing, studio. But also Revive Coventry. So if you like Reformer Pilates, go there. It's amazing. It's a small business. These are all small businesses that I'm supporting, but they are so mentally brilliant. They're very much into exercises, releases endorphins, therefore it makes you happier. So you come out, even though I did a boot camp and I literally was walking like I crapped myself, but did I feel brilliant afterwards? I felt amazing. So definitely exercising has been my saving grace as well. So those are the 3 places that I would say go.
Amazing.
Check out.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll tag them as well.
Yeah, definitely tag them.
Just in the points, just in the links underneath. And again, I'm just so grateful. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.